talk about is an issue that weighs heavily on all of us, and that's the Iraq War. As you all know, I was one of the first members of Congress to come out against the original War Authorization Resolution. And the reason for that is, I think there are two things that are the most important things we can vote on in Congress, and I've had either the fortune or misfortune, probably the misfortune, of voting on both of them. Impeachment of a president and a resolution. And with the Iraq War, the president said to us that he had evidence. You might recall that, think back way into the distant past, the original rationale for going to war was that Iraq supposedly had evidence of weapons of mass destruction that posed an imminent threat to our country. Remember that? Remember those days? And we would go into the top secret, classified, double dare briefings. They take away our cell phones and our Blackberries just in case we might ring up Saddam Hussein and hold our cell phones up. And we would be in these briefings, and Don Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz would say, well, we have the evidence of the weapons of mass destruction. And there was this pesky little group, including me, former trial lawyer, who would say, well, what is that evidence? And they'd go, well, we have it. And we'd go, well, what is it? And they'd go, well, not to worry, honey, we have it. And we'd go, and we said, well, we're not voting to send our troops to war, dismantle a sovereign government, and kill our precious young men and women and the Iraqi civilians based on just that assertion alone. So I voted against the war, and I've been, and of course, everything that we thought came true. There were no weapons of mass destruction. We didn't go in as conquering victors and have Jefferson and Madison spring up and form a constitutional democracy. The oil lines were immediately restored, thereby causing low oil prices, and we weren't able to then sell democracy all throughout the Middle East, which anybody, my 13-year-old daughter, could have told you that going in, frankly. And so ever since then, we have tried to do a couple of things, the Democrats in Congress. The first thing we've tried to do is make it very clear that while we oppose the war, we support our troops, because they've been sent to fight this war. They are suffering terribly. I just had a press conference with some moms whose kids are over there right now. And one of her kids, who's in a very forward position in Iraq, he is limited by our U.S. military to 4 bottles of water a day, even though the temperature is in excess of 110 degrees. And I could go on like that. Our troops are facing terrible challenges. So the first thing we wanted to let folks know, we do support our troops, even though we don't support the mission. And the second thing is that we need to work as much as we can. And what that means is we need to give them the equipment and the food and water and the conditions that they deserve. The second thing is that we've been trying to convince this stubborn president that we need to end this war and we need to bring our troops home. And that would be the very best way that we can support our troops. Yeah. So when we took the majority in January, we embarked on what we knew would be a long and difficult path towards changing the course of the war. And what Nancy Pelosi likes to say, and I think it's a good analogy, is it's like you've got a big battleship sailing out there. You can't bring it to a halt like this as much as you might want to. You have to change the course. And so, as you know, we have had a number of votes on the emergency supplemental bill trying to put benchmarks and timelines in place, all of which I support, including what was the McGovern Amendment, is now the Obey bill, to begin to bring the troops home within 3 months, to have that completed within 1 year. I think that's the benchmark that we all need to look at, that we need to pressure the president to say the troops need to start coming home, we need to bring them home within a year. The second thing, I think, and there's a growing consensus, is that the problem we have is the president is the commander-in-chief. He has the constitutional ability to conduct the war, and he keeps stubbornly refusing to listen to the American people or the majority of Congress and to start putting benchmarks and timelines in place and bringing the troops home. So I think it's frankly time for Congress to take away that authority that we gave him and to deauthorize the war. The reason is because the original purpose of the war, which I had mentioned, is no longer true. And what we're doing now in Iraq apparently is trying to mediate a civil war that we're not having. The Iraqis don't want us there, and it's not working. So my colleague Ellen Tauscher, who's the senior member on the Armed Services Committee, has a resolution to deauthorize the war, which I signed on to last week as a co-sponsor. And I spoke with Ellen about this last week. She's been promised by my leadership that we will have a vote on this over the summer. And I will not only vote for it, but as a chief deputy whip, as I helped whip for the McGovern Amendment, for example, where we got over 170 votes, which was about 30 or 40 more than we thought, I'm going to whip to try to make that pass. So that's what's going on with Iraq right now. I can't say it's an easy situation, and all of us are unhappy with it.